Hey, everybody. I'm not sure if we're live because the last time we tried this, we made it about 20 minutes into this episode before finding out that we were, in fact, not live. So we're giving it a second go. Hopefully, you all are here. And if you aren't, just
I think we're
scream.
good. I think we're
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
awesome. Otherwise, scream at Omar on Twitter or Discord or whatever, and we'll go from there. All right. I don't know. I was having fun on our first take, man. I don't know if I can replicate it, but let's
Yeah.
see here. Here we go. Take two.
Might be less organic. So
Yeah. Now if I can't drop the same one-liners. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll see how this goes. As always, here's the legal jargon. These are ideas, not promises. We don't ever give investment or legal advice. Y'all have been doing a great job of using this information for good and not for evil. If you keep that up, we'll keep doing it. And if you're still here, you agree to those terms, and we are rolling. All right, so this should look boring and old and like exactly what you guys expect. We're going to talk about Enigma, the subnet that we operate that does this distributed challenges. We're going to talk about Quantum, which is the subnet that does quantum compute. Spend a bit of time talking about recent changes in the BitTensor ecosystem and in a kind of adjacent tech industry. And then we'll spend some time on community sentiment. We've been going a little over an hour the last couple times we did this. So we're going to try to do it just a little quicker to save you guys from needing to spend quite as much time with us in your lives. All right, we'll kick it off with Enigma. So the last time we had a qBitTensor Labs live, we were talking about milestone increases. There should be nothing surprising about that. That's kind of like the design of the subnet. In fact, ideally, once a challenge gets going, the milestones grow to a lot more than their initial introductory price. These things are going to start to get hard. They're going to take, many weeks. They're going to require real, invention in order to solve them. And so 2 weeks ago, we had announced that we were up to 15K. And today we are up to 20K. Now, what's a little unusual about this is that both of those milestones are like in lockstep with each other. I think the general expectation should be that like one is being solved at a different rate than the other ones are being solved. And so I'm sort of imagining that pretty soon we'll see a winner on one of these, and then there'll be a new milestone at a completely different milestone prize. But right now, they're in lockstep with each other. And so 20,000 is pretty awesome money for most people. You could totally like get a new car, get a third of a Bitcoin, submit 1,000 other Enigma solutions with your proceeds. But yeah, I mean, like it's a completely non-trivial amount of money. In fact, our blue qubit, every time we bump it, our blue qubit partner who we had on at the last qBitTensor Labs hike messages me and is like, "Oh man, like that's a lot of money. Like in real life, that's a lot of money." But what's even crazier is, despite kind of the macros and the fact that like Tau can't decide if it's like above or below $200, we still have a prize pool that is up well above 600,000, which is really starting to get into like a sexy range where you can start doing like giant prizes for $100,000 that are not attainable for many months or years, right? Real like marketable prize sizes. But what's really cool is we sort of expected that because you can download the repo, you have like a little workbench that you can run these challenges at their full scale. We were sort of expecting that with the recent submission sizes, with the recent milestone sizes, that we'd see submissions essentially drop to zero because they're really hard. And, you figure people are going to be doing development on their local environments, or they're going to be renting time on like an equivalent system and running the challenges there to sort of prove them out. But we've been really surprised to see that the submission counts, remain very non-trivial in terms of what volumes are coming in. And just to give some perspective, and Sure Shot might bust my balls a little bit for the prompt on this one because my level of specificity is a little weak. But when you ask Claude, if I should be able to factorize a well-formed 500-bit RSA key, with that system, like with the system that is the minimum requirements for the validators, it basically says, no, you probably shouldn't be able to do that. It says with a 24 vCPU times 4 hours, that's 96 core hours. That's roughly 10 to 20 times short of what you should need. I think Claude is going to be very surprised because when we have looked at the submissions coming in and how close they're getting, it is really close. And in fact, we've seen 28 submissions at the 500-bit RSA size. And again, for context, like you really should only submit once you think you have a solution, like once your solution is passing locally, which means, people are feeling that they're pretty close. Then if you flip over to the peaked circuits, the hardening quantum proof, you'll also see submissions are lower, and that's kind of expected because the type of innovator who can work on RSA is really like high overlap with the type of innovator that's already in qBitTensor. It's guys that can, do research on algorithms that exist, that can juice them to really run well on a specific compute environment. No crypto. But when you think about the guys that are going to, really be the innovators on the hardening quantum proof, it's going to be people who are really more based in the fundamentals. Like they understand the science behind how these circuits work. They understand the science behind how quantum mechanics work and how you translate that into quantum circuits and run them, combined with a lot of those skills that we just talked about, knowing which libraries to run the circuits and how to juice the most out of the machines. And so the biggest blocker for more submissions to this has been the fact that up until now, all of the submissions had to be done by registering a miner, opening a qBitTensor wallet, funding your qBitTensor wallet, transferring your funds, and then submitting through the CLI. Shoreshot, I'll be very excited to hear about your coverage of what we're doing next.
Yeah, and as we've kind of grow here, we want to expand the capability to have submissions through the web and not have to rely on some of the setup that we'd have to do as a qBitTensor user with setting up a miner and running the miner CLI and everything like that. And we want to have these quantum researchers that just want to click a button be able to submit solutions here. So, coming shortly here, you'll be able to actually submit through the web. It goes through the same exact process through qBitTensor, and including the alpha fee and submitting through the validator, running through all the validators as well. And the way we actually do that is we allow you to connect your Open Quantum account and pay for those submissions using for the compute using the Open Quantum credits. So.
Yeah, super cool. And yeah, I mean, and like, I love that for so many reasons. One, it's creating like an easy way for people to take real dollars, buying these full credits on Open Quantum, and then we in turn are, using that money to buy alpha and use it for the fees. So cool tokenomics story without making people understand qBitTensor. But also cool that these people, the people that we're targeting here, are quantum people. And so getting them exposed to the idea of like, I put my credit card into Open Quantum, I open an Open Quantum account. Oh, I can also run jobs on quantum computers. All really cool stuff. I'm super excited about this. One thing I was just literally just suddenly started thinking about is in the other world, they have to register miners. So in theory, like you could register as many miners as you want. Like I don't think people would because it's really low like volume of submissions. But in this world, are we registering just one curated miner that we're taking these like the queue from the web and then submitting them on their behalf?
Exactly. Yep.
And does that like I hate to ask funny questions like totally publicly, but like does that create like a queue then in our system? Like if there's like multiple coming in?
Not really.
Yeah. No. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I was just thinking. Yeah. But anyway, super cool. I love like one of the things that seems like it has in the broader ecosystem gotten a lot of like heat recently is, when owners operate miners, which normally should be a bad thing. But I actually think this is a great model for like when you should do that, right? Which is essentially saying like, how do we expand the market by taking the complexity of running a miner away
I
from.
mean, it's not something that's unique or protected either. Anyone could start up a miner and take submissions from anyone else. Please don't go and start to call up people to make submissions for you and bother people. You know, I think we had that in the past with people actually calling up Blue Qubit, but about a year ago, and they were wondering why they were getting asked all these questions regarding peaked circuits. But yeah, so please don't bother people. But at the same time, it's like you could stand up your own portal to accept submissions or even reach out to others to kind of collaborate together. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is probably like if you win, those funds are going to come back into the miner wallets. You better trust.
yeah, right, yeah. The person better be able to trust you
Yeah.
as a miner. So
All right. So I think Omar made this next slide, but it's totally about it's totally for a short shot. Feel like you're getting burned sometimes.
yeah, there's been some challenges definitely over the past couple months that haven't existed over the past year when it comes to um, BitTensor SDK and backwards compatibility with what's on mainnet. Um, you know, I like rapid innovation. I like quick innovation. At the same time, it would be nice to have some compatibility shims in place to handle things like removal of the HTTP stack on the BitTensor SDK. I think it's a great thing to do. It's not the proper responsibility of the BitTensor SDK to handle that, but at the same time, it's like cutovers could be problematic. We saw recently that we had issues reading the metagraph with the version 10 SDK, which kind of forces your hand uh, into migrating and then not having any compatibility shims, at least that I know of, could create difficulty when it comes to, oh, everyone has to upgrade validators and miners at the same time because the communication mechanism between them is changed. Because now, you'd be running your own fast API server instead. I'm getting into the weeds a little bit here, but there's a lot of things that we have on deck, a lot of modernization and changes to both subnets 48 and 63. A lot of stuff has already gone out in the background, but there's a lot of stuff kind of almost ready to go here, and we're just finishing up the final testing of it.
Yeah. So between all the code that you're needing to migrate and all the awesome new features that are coming out, you and the team are.
Yeah, we're pretty busy here and trying to move as quickly as possible. So sorry if for example, it's like we want to get more attributes exposed in terms of the validators and being able to advertise GPU wattage, so that way miners could really hone in even more on the target systems that they're going to run on.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it nothing to apologize for. I think you guys are doing amazing work. Omar, talk us through this subnet partnership.
Totally. Yeah. So I think traditionally we've sort of taken the stance of keeping our head down and not really engaging with the broader BitTensor ecosystem. And we've realized, while that has kept us out of a lot of trouble, which is great, there are a lot of great subnets out there that have a lot to offer. And so we've been sort of exploring opportunities there. And one of the, in our opinion, most logical first steps there was to partner with Bitcast. Actually, one of our qBitties had reached out to us and made that introduction. So thank you for that. But we have partnered with Bitcast to launch a campaign to try and drum up some more conversation around Enigma and what is going on there. And so it's been active for, I think, just under 2 weeks now. And we were promised, most campaigns usually generate 45 to 70 tweets. This screenshot that I took earlier this week has 131 tweets. So sort of the outpouring of support has been super exciting to see. And actually, the views when I checked last night was closer to 90,000 than 65,000. So there's been a lot of engagement. we have noticed, and I think this is pretty common in sort of the crypto ecosystems, but a lot of people are using AI to generate sort of made up posts from the content we put out there, and then there's a lot of farmed engagement, and so we're still waiting to see whether or not this translates into sort of our KPIs that we were hoping to hit. But the fact of the matter is, this has been a good experiment. We've been able to partner with other builders in the ecosystem, and are seeing some upticks at least already in sort of our main metrics.
Yeah, Bitcast is such an interesting thing. Like, it's what a cool experiment to like just be able to run. Like you can just throw some money at this and basically say, how will a high volume of social engagement impact alpha price, emission, overall sentiment, without needing to like put all of the real investment into like building that in a sustained way. And it can sort of drive like your socials strategy a little bit. So I'll say, anecdotally, I looked at the hard metrics on this, which is largely like how did it affect alpha price, and so like, I mean, actually, I will say, probably if I were to quantifiably analyze it, not just look at the charts, probably it had some small positive impact on it. And in fact, we paid for this partnership, the engagement fees associated with this, using our own alpha. And we've been able to watch, and, they weren't obligated to hold that alpha in our subnet, but obviously they believe enough in their, in the value of their experience that they did, because, they expect it to go up because of it. I will say there wasn't like a huge up, but another anecdote, I ran into an old friend here in Boulder who plays in the ecosystem from time to time, hasn't been around for a while. And when he saw me, he was like, "Oh man, people are feeling pretty good about Enigma." Like I just noticed like there's a lot of people feeling really good about Enigma. And I was like, "Oh man, like, I wonder if you watched it while all these like, Bitcast people are out there, talking about it." So yeah, it's fun experiment. And I think the general tone of like, how can we leverage the broader BitTensor ecosystem, I think is a good question that we should keep asking. And so, yeah, if people have other thoughts on, things, whether it's as trivial as like engaging a partner like this, or, much more complicated, like, partnering to buy decentralized compute or something, we're interested in other ideas. Cool. Oh, that's it for Enigma. Yeah, I think Enigma looking strong. We've got some other things coming. Probably next time we have qBitTensor Labs live, we should talk about the next steps with Enigma. So we'll put that on the agenda. Okay, quantum compute. Quantum compute has been really pretty exciting recently. One of the things, thanks for putting this in here, Omar, and maybe I'll have you talk about this, but we're starting to get surprised with research being published citing Open Quantum. So what's this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, we originally launched Open Quantum and, still have been launching Open Quantum with the idea of making quantum compute resources available to everyone. I think, it's been said over and over again, the bar for accessing quantum computers is so high, and you need to pour so much money and go through all these contracts. And it can be really tough, especially if you're in, an independent research setting, if you have a lot to give, but are maybe not associated with a lab or institution. And so what we noticed pretty recently was that this independent researcher was using our platform to put out work. He was running algorithms on real quantum hardware as sort of his experiment, and publishing the results. And so he's actually published 2 papers run through Rigetti Cepheus 108, which has been super exciting to see. And he's cited us because he's used the platform for all of those, which is, super exciting. It sort of validates our thesis of, there is a demand for quantum compute, and offering it at a low cost can actually have some real tangible benefit. There is this middle bullet point, if you're paying attention. The platform was maybe not used as honestly as we would have hoped. We did notice there was some exploitation of the free credit system. And so we were looking through our metrics, and we were like, this guy shows up a number of times as having, several accounts, to the point where, it seems like you're sort of stealing, the goodwill we put out for for giving you an intro, we'd really like to see if you're going to use the platform this heavily that you're engaging with it how you're supposed to, either through referrals or credit purchases. But we actually did talk this over with the researcher and got him to stop
Very
doing
amicable.
it.
Yeah.
They're very amicable, which is nice. And so, yeah, we've sort of been exploring ways to discourage this, both through the terms of use and better monitoring. And then we're looking into programs that might better support researchers like this who have a lot to provide, but don't have the funds to do so. And so, we're excited to see Open Quantum keep being used for research like this. And it's also huge for validating our platform as legitimate if, real research is being pumped out.
So I remember the first time software that I was writing and selling got pirated. And it was such a major milestone to have people like want to rip off your work. In fact, Sure Shot, I think you had that experience too, didn't you? You were probably a lot younger than I was when people started pirating your software.
I did make some stuff called shareware back in the day, and yeah.
But yeah, so like, I mean, it's actually like really cool when what you're providing is so desirable that people are like, I'm going to invest time into figuring out how to steal it.
Right.
Now, on the flip side, you got to close those things. And so we've taken a lot of steps to close those. This guy was, I would say he stopped short of being apologetic, but was very like acknowledging and said he would use it the right way going forward. We have a lot of additional, steps that are in place to prevent stuff like this from happening, and a roadmap of some other items to do to make that harder and harder to do. But what I would also say is if you look at the total number of free credits that we say spent on this research versus the total number of like alpha that was spent on the running a Bitcast campaign, like this is probably a substantially better investment, even though we didn't have a say in the matter. Like,
It would be nice to have a say in it, and a say in the investment, I guess, right? So
yeah. And so the key thing I think is like recognizing that these independent researchers like this guy that's not backed up by some large organization with big bags need other ways of being supported. That's a really cool opportunity. We're going to explore that opportunity. Omar's got some real cool ideas, and actually it directly involves the BitTensor ecosystem, which is exciting. But some papers are starting to come out, which is great. Oh, Omar, you opened your mouth. Say it. What was it?
I was just going to follow up. This is not a one-time thing. We have had a number of independent researchers reach out to us, which I think we are going to cover more, but it is sort of further validation that the platform is picking up and, real people are finding it and gaining use out of it.
Totally. Yep. Good call. And so on that though, like a big part of it up until like last week, pretty much has been like just organic, right? Like the way people discover the platform is very much hearing about it, through the rumor mills. The way that they engage with the platform is because they go to the platform. Like we're not going to them to remind them about the value of the platform or tell them that their credits have expired or tell them that, like we haven't been doing a lot of the just like standard automated marketing. And that's something that Sure Shot's got covered.
Definitely got it coming here. But yeah, I'd just like to comment that like a lot of different people have found us organically and have been using us in interesting ways in order to run jobs on QPUs. So yeah, it's exciting to see the growth here.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so while these mailing campaigns that you set up that you're going to walk us through don't directly hit like the new user acquisition, like one of the things we do internally, this is a business. And so we actually like measure, what is our target for new user signups? Okay, specifically, what conversion rate do we want to use in terms of claiming free credits? Okay, specifically, how many of those free credits are we trying to get people to go and consume before they expire? And, in the end, how does that boil down to like revenue? And, where does all the money flow? And so one of the first things that we're taking to try to like control those levels to hit the conversion rates that we're looking for is these mailing campaigns that Sure Shot set up. So run us through that.
Yeah, so we implemented automated follow-up mail to drive engagement on the platform, encouraging users to claim credits, the quarterly credits come out, or run jobs, or refer their friends, or buy credits, and we're seeing an amazing amount of adoption with this kind of campaign in terms of responsiveness, people opening, click rates, and upticks in engagement because of it. So.
Yeah, we didn't include any of those metrics. I was meaning to drop that in, but like I am floored. So I've run a lot of automated marketing campaigns before, and like, okay, cool technology, but ultimately, like the open rates are really not a factor of the technology. Like the open rates are more of a factor of like the envelope that arrives in your inbox, and is it something that you care about and something interesting. And we have been seeing like off the chart open rates and off the chart click rates. Like it's very
It's like
common. Yeah, please.
41% open rate and almost 9% click rate from this last round. So.
That's insane. And one of the emails, like, so I can say this because like I had a heavy hand in writing the emails, but one of the emails was terribly written. Like the one that was like, do you have a friend you want to refer? Like the subject line, I don't even remember what the subject line was, but I was like, that is a terrible email. I would absolutely not open that email. And so even with like the bad emails weighing it down, we still have like open rates and click rates like that, which is, I mean, orders of magnitude higher than, what marketing teams are expecting to see. So really cool stuff, man. Super exciting. Okay, so the other thing that we're looking ahead at is obviously we've said that public compute means that you as a user are exchanging your data for free or lower cost compute. And so we're getting ready to start producing a seasonal report that is sort of quarterly, except it aligns more with the seasons and less with the quarters, because that has big implications on like school, who's in school, out of school. And that's probably when we're going to see big like shifts in what's happening on the platform. And so, you might zoom in on this and try to read it. It's all generated off of the data that's available today. We still have a couple of weeks left to go. But, these reports are really cool, walking through like who's using quantum computing, where are they in the world, what are the types of workloads that people are running, and, how big are the circuits that people are trying to run, and how are the different computers being demanded, like which systems are high demand, which systems are low demand, and even like what types of modalities are attracting what types of workloads. Like all of these things, I think people have a lot of ideas on what those should be, but there's no data source for anything like this. And so, we're getting ready to package this up into a report. We'll get it out before this thing called IEEE Quantum Week, which is a big quantum conference that all the kind of scientists and students and stuff like that go to. We'll work on circulating this out to kind of trade media ahead of time to see if we can get a little bit of bump in circulation. But I think the world's going to be really excited about the type of data that we can mine out of this free stuff, which is really cool. And one of the other cool things that we're talking about school seasons. So we're entering into school seasons. And one of the things that is becoming more and more common is to have classes that are essentially introduction to quantum computing. And like a lot of times those classes, you're kind of doing like quantum computing on a whiteboard. Like if any of you guys are like comp sci guys like me, like, one of your early computer science classes is like drawing logical gates on a whiteboard and like calculating it, by following the logic. But by the end of those classes, you're running simulators, you're sometimes running on real QPUs. And so what we've launched, and we would love your help in getting the word out on this, is a targeted program for professors of quantum computing courses. And so the requirement for this is you do have to have a public website that lists you as the professor for a legitimate learning institution. But as long as you can show that, you can essentially report in your class size, and we provision an account for you and your class to go and run free quantum computing. From our side, this is going to help enrich the data that we see in our systems. It's going to help make the people that are going to be the employees running quantum workloads in a few years see open quantum as kind of the place to go for this. And, this is all really only made possible by qBitTensor. Other people try to do stuff like this, but they have to be like centralized programs that are funded by, funded by real dollars, and they have centralized organizations that are going to review you and decide if you're worthy or not before giving you those dollars. Whereas we get to actually like lean into this idea of like decentralized, open to everybody, totally democratized. And we really think this is going to pick up like wildfire. And so whoever you are out there, if you have an alma mater that you're proud of, or even if you're not that proud of them, and you go check them out and see if they have a intro to quantum course, hit them up, send them here. They can just fill out the form and get their class funded and help fill your bags. Oh, man, this is a cool one. Okay, you want to talk about this one, Ryan?
Yeah, kind of the next logical step, I think, in terms of like layering on top of our SDK is to provide AI agent support. So now we wrote a model context protocol library that's available on PyPy or Pippy, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
People call it Pippy? I've never heard that.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Next thing you're going to tell me it's GIF.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I prefer GIF, but shit. Anyways.
GitHub.
Yeah, exactly. GitHub. Yeah.
Am I the only GIF guy here?
Yes.
I think so.
Sick.
Yeah, many arguments have been had over that. But yeah, Open Quantum MCP is just really an easier way to get your AI, Claude, Cursor, VS Code, Grok plugged into running quantum circuits on a real quantum QPUs easier. So we have some limits in place for like, some spending and how things get run, which you could then like tweak based upon your preferences. But it's really just a kind of a first step in terms of like getting automation closer towards QPUs as opposed to like, you could previously get an AI to run your quantum circuits, but it would probably orchestrate creation of some Python code and then kind of a little bit more hands-on and interactive, and this is a way to kind of break down those barriers. So
excellent. Well, and the funny thing is we were looking at the data that was coming out in those insights reports, and one of the things that's in there is how people are choosing to interface with Open Quantum, like if they're coming in through the web portal or through qBraid or through the core SDK. And we were surprised to see that like MCP was really high. And then what we realized was like we had just launched our MCP, but actually like other people have already developed MCP servers, and like they obviously developed their MCP using agents. And so the agents were like smart enough to figure out that there was this way of reporting in who you were. And so like, yeah, I mean, not only is it like natural, but I think we're going to way undercount how many people are using like agents as their way of interfacing with these computers.
Right.
Because I think they'll just be coming in through the other ways too.
It's even as simple as just saying like, hey, run a Bell circuit for me, and don't even need to be specific about the chasm, and it could go ahead and do that. Now, you're not going to be able to get super complex with that, but at least it's a little bit more hands-off and could help not only the learning and education process, but just being able to, if you use this stuff day to day, if you have other sets of Python tools and libraries that you use, need kind of interject and have them play together in concert, then this could be a great way to do that.
Yeah, totally. When I talk about this, I always point to this like paper that came out in the spring that basically like looked at all the different LLMs and how effective they can be at like generating quantum circuits that accurately represent what you're asking it. And it was like terrible, I mean, so like it can do a lot of things like generate a GHZ state or generate a Bell state or stuff like that. But it's pretty terrible at generating circuits today. But what it doesn't have to be bad at is like all of the crappy plumbing, And what I've actually heard from like people working in industry is that like more than 50% of their time is wasted screwing around with the plumbing. It's like, it's not generating quantum. You got PhD quantum scientists trying to like figure out why Qiskit's not working because they upgraded it, and
Yeah, it's like they
like
shouldn't
that.
have to worry about that
Yeah.
type of nonsense. The AI, a good AI should be able to work through some of that stuff, but also, all these things kind of could work together and make things easier.
So excited about this one. I can't wait to see adoption. And that is Subnet 48's coverage for today. Yeah, man, good stuff. Really good stuff. So excited about it. News and events. Omar, do you want to take us through this?
Sure.
Lead the whole section. Take us home. Take us home.
Great. So Root Reborn was released since the last live stream. I don't remember exactly when, but it's very newly been released, and we've sort of been seeing the impacts of that. And so we had spoken about this in one of our previous live streams, and I think the general consensus was we're more or less in favor of this, although there are some implementation things that we're a little concerned about. But nonetheless, it is live and impacting people. And so there was a tweet that went out by someone at Yuma sort of analyzing the data just on like the first week of Root Reborn. And it was saying that 50 to 75% of the unstaking volume, so people unstaking from Root, did not have an associated claim of their sort of APY token baskets. And so it was interesting just to see as these, inactive participants who aren't engaging with the subnets and paying attention to which validators they're on were leaving money on the table, which is more or less how the system was designed. It was, we don't want to give free lunch to, these people that are not really engaging with the ecosystem. And so that was a sort of cool observation, and whether or not that continues to work will remain to be seen, but it seems like more or less the system is working as intended. That being said, there were a number of complaints, mostly on this post, sort of pointing out that there are some growing pains and existing flaws. One of which was that in order to claim your basket of APY, you had to pay a fee of like $20, and that's fine if you're claiming hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of tokens. But if you're trying to get your $2 out anytime you want to unstake on Root, you're actually losing money. And so the parallel I was seeing here was that, we had that gas fee bug. And so I think there's speculation. Is this a bug? Is this the intended behavior? Regardless, it is discouraging people from engaging with the system as intended. There was also a complaint about, users not knowing that this went out. I actually did go through and look at all the channels, and OTF actually did do a pretty nice job of letting everyone know, hey, Root Reborn is live. It's going to be deploying pretty shortly. And then there was a whole novelty search. And so I think in terms of the communication, there might be some leftover hard feelings on how fast things are moving. But the more or less the system is out. It's mostly working, but there are still a few tweaks that could be made.
Is that real, or are these guys just like misunderstanding something? Like, is that, I mean, like this guy posts like, I need to pay $20 to get $2 worth of rewards. Like, that seems crazy.
It does seem crazy. I mean, it seemed like a common sentiment. And so I don't know if that's because you're transferring all the different tokens that adds up to a bunch of different transfers. Purely speculating. I don't know why that mechanism exists, but it seemed like a pretty common observation across several comments. So it's not isolated to this one guy.
Yeah. Okay. Word. That sounds very plausible. Okay. Yeah. And, I mean, I think it plays back into the idea of like, we can totally innovate fast without breaking things along the way. I had forgotten about gas fees, man. That was a painful one.
Yeah, it's like it was just like a month ago, but like, yes, it was that painful. It seems like it was eons ago.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to better things. Omar, tell people about Hawk. What's Hawk?
Yeah, so Hawk is a PQC cipher that was being proposed for like the new standard. We talk on Enigma a lot about how RSA and traditional ciphers are not really going to cut it anymore. And with papers coming out basically every month saying, hey, we've reduced the Shor's algorithm required to tackle these, classical ciphers the need to move over to PQC is pretty important. And so NIST has been undergoing a multi-year program to, vet these different candidates, one of which is Hawk. And very recently, July 28th, Anthropic comes out with a paper saying, hey, we put Claude on Hawk, it broke it. And basically, it wasn't a pure break, but basically within 60 hours, Mythos was able to find an exploit that halves the strength of this Hawk protocol. And so we see this more and more often, that usually it is Anthropic saying, hey, Mythos broke something. But the fact of the matter is we've been talking about this for ages. We've been saying, hey, we're not sure how much the PQC protocols have actually been stress tested. And that is something we would ultimately like to do, on Enigma. But the point is somebody needs to be doing it. And, thankfully Anthropic did, because we found this critical exploit where if this had become the new standard, that could have had, huge implications if a bad actor were to find this exploit.
What's crazy about this in my mind? Well, okay. First off, I'm never going to be the guy that's like, told you so. But weren't we on a call with like a guy almost at exactly this time talking about the concept that PQC might not have been, vetted well enough? And the guy was like, whoever is telling you that is an idiot. Or, like, do you remember that? Do you remember?
I do remember that. Yeah. No,
But,
you're right.
That would have been almost exactly when Anthropic announced this. And then they totally stopped talking to us after that too. So I wonder if like, they felt humiliated by this. That's
potentially.
Hilarious.
I mean,
Yeah, that's. I'm hoping it's on. They're noticing it, right, and digesting it, because there's a lot of bold claims that people make that time will tell whether or not they could hold water. So.
Yeah, math people are like my favorite people. I love math people, but they do very often see things as like the math says so, therefore. And it's like, like a lot of times these exploits are like not even in the math. You know what I mean? Like they're more like in the implementation.
I can't wait till like light speed is broken, and then like it'll just like blow everyone's minds. So, like, it can't happen. The math is like says it can't.
Right.
These theories can't, say it can't, but
Yeah, never told me the odds. It'll break.
Yeah. And then BitTensor, if you ever figure out the math that really works for you, it's going to change next week anyway.
That's fair. Yeah.
Anyway, this does make a very strong case for pressure testing. I think this person we were talking to has a very good point in that, mathematicians have been looking at these algorithms and trying to beat them up for literal years now. But there are people outside of math that will think about this in a way that the traditional academic doesn't. And that is going to lead to, breaks like this. And so this actually escalated to the point where the creators of Hawk retracted it as a candidate for NIST standardization. They said, that this exploit is too big. We can't in good conscience continue to like push this forward. And so again, huge case for pressure testing on a network like Enigma, which brings talent from all walks of life, not just, private labs.
Totally. Yeah, that's cool. And also, by the way, can you imagine how sucky it would be to be like, I don't know, like I thank God it happened before everybody spent millions of dollars adopting this and stuff like this. But like, if this is like the work that you've been doing for years and years, and then Claude finds this exploit and you're like, I withdraw, right? Like, how hard would that email be to write, man? Holy smokes. That's crazy. Okay, and then, but that wasn't the only crazy PQC thing that happened, was it?
It was not. No. So a paper by an Amazon researcher was released pretty recently, and it was making a pretty bold claim. It was stating that he found not an exploit, but I guess a simplification in lattice-based ciphers, which is more or less the foundation for all prominent PQC ciphers. And so the implication here is that, if this actually works, most PQC, if not all PQC, is rendered somewhat obsolete. And surprisingly, this is a pretty huge claim to be making. There wasn't a ton of hype around it. Usually we'll see the quantum hype machine picks up everything. twists it into some breaking news headline and then finds a way to make, get tons of engagement off it. But it's been rather quiet. And
I have a theory on that.
Okay, what's your theory on that?
Well, okay, so where is the real, like, I mean, if I'm running a quantum company, where can I go and like engage with Fortune 500 companies and charge them millions of dollars today? PQC, right? And the way that I can do that is by, one, hyping that RSA is going to be broken, like, like hyping up any clickbait that comes out on that. And then two, saying, but it's okay, I have the antidote for that. It's PQC. Now, most of the smart people doing that work, like, they're not migrating you to PQC. They're like creating crypto agility for you in your organization so you can change more easily in the future. And so, like, that still is a narrative that works with this. But like, with all of that money coming in, like, every major IT consultancy is in that game now, and they've got multi-million-dollar engagements with Fortune 500. And so, like, if they hype this, then it's going to make a lot of people spending a lot of money ask a lot of hard questions that they don't know the answer to yet. Now, I don't mean to be like a conspiracy theorist, but like, the truth is that people hype what ends up helping them. What assertion? Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Yeah,
I see either two things: a 3-letter agency got to them, or it doesn't hold water. But if there's that, little chatter.
That's interesting. That's interesting too.
So I think your point on the second one is more or less spot on. Is that it doesn't seem to be holding water. There was a very like this article that we've clipped from took a very conservative stance, but I was able to trace down some public Discord channels where they're like actively disputing this paper, and so the author of the paper and then some other prominent cryptographers are going at it, and they're finding all these bugs. There actually already has been a re-review published fixing one of the holes found in it. And so, it is a huge claim, but I think there are a lot of problems with it, and it's undergoing a fair amount of scrutiny. And so, we can't say, hey, all of PQC is obsolete. Very likely it's not, but it is interesting to see how this will all play out.
Yeah, the other, okay, so another thing too is like, one of the things most scientific papers are pretty good about is like making no assertion, like they're like, here is a whole bunch of things that I did. I'm not going to connect the dots and tell you what you should take away from this, because that would create some like, so do these guys make any like assertion that what this means to lattice-based encryption, or is it purely presenting some like early evidence that is so-so, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the claims they're making, but I think the implication at the very least is that,
we need to
if we vastly reduce this problem to a, polynomial time problem, it weakens PQC substantially. But people have pointed out, even if there is this reduction, which is ordinarily a no-no for, useful ciphers, that the polynomial runtime is still massive. And so even if this were to hold water, you may or may not be able to actually do anything with it.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. We'll need to start thinking about, if we launch such a challenge, would it be hardening PQC or would it be breaking PQC? I don't know. We'll have to think about that. All right. Continuing on to community and Q&A. Yeah, you want to lead this one, Omar, and I'll jump in?
Yeah. So we had, I guess, a number of questions from Bess coming in. I'm going to start from the bottom, but the question was...
Thanks for that, by the way. I can see these are hardball questions.
It's going to sort of ease us into it.
The softball. Give me the give me the meatball first.
So the question was, how was the response from DEF CON and the shout out from Terra Quantum? And so for context, we mentioned a couple weeks ago that Taylor Hartley, who's been a guest of the show, was going to be at DEF CON, a big sort of cybersecurity conference, talking about quantum and what that looks like for cybersecurity. And she said, hey, we'll mention Enigma and the Breaking RSA Challenge, which is super exciting. And so she did. DEF CON was last weekend, I believe. And she mentioned us, and the correspondence I had with her over email was, there was a QR code on the slide and everyone pulled out their phones. And so a lot of people are seeing it. And I think putting up a reward like 20K, certainly appealing to a lot of these people. So that being said, we haven't seen a huge influx in submissions yet, but that hopefully just means that they're all, working hard on solving the problem or waiting for the next one to be released. So
Totally. Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay,
yeah,
good. Feel free to
time for the hardballs.
The heat, the high stinking cutter. By the way, review of the year reference, Sure Shot. Is that? Yeah, no, that old 90s movie. All right, I feel like me and Sure Shot are always on the same wavelength around movies, so I figured that might have been one of your one in your bank.
Getting some destructive interference today. It's a shame. What can you tell us about the new and next challenges to come with the partners that will be buying Alpha?
Yeah,
so non-founding partners.
Yeah, so a couple things on that, and that's specific to Enigma. By the way, cool that we're mixing questions from both. Bess, I appreciate you staying on the pulse of all of it. There are two challenges when it comes to launching additional challenges. Sounds like I'm speaking in riddles. One of them is finding things that kind of meet all of the criteria. One criteria is it's discretely verifiable by a validator. One is that it's a real and meaningful problem. One is that it can scale with complexity and that it should be able to have a couple different milestones before you sort of like plateau. And those things turn out to be a little bit hard to find. Like it's not trivial to find them. You can almost find like all of them except for one. Right? It's like super verifiable, super nice and easy to have lots of milestones, but it's not valuable. Or it's highly valuable and there's plenty of milestones, but like it's not discretely verifiable. It's subjective. There's all these funny things. And so one problem is it can be hard to find the problems. The second is getting companies to come in and sponsor them is also, the problem needs to be very aligned with the company. The company needs to be very friendly with strange crypto places, things like that. And so I don't have anything to tell you on the next challenges other than internally we have like a number of very strong candidates. We sort of know the direction that we're going to go. I do think we may end up needing to substantially reduce or even eliminate the requirement that they buy the alpha. That seems to be like getting people to participate in a crypto ecosystem is one level of difficulty. Getting people to like open a BitTensor wallet, buy Tau, transfer it to their BitTensor wallet, stake it onto your subnet when it's like a company that operates outside of crypto, that's a very, really a pretty heavy lift. And so, maybe we change the mechanics of how that works. Maybe we eliminate that completely. We are hoping that eventually we have enough pull that that becomes easier to do. But, in reality, we probably need to keep a pipeline of challenges coming, with or without that requirement met. Okay, the second one, with more jobs landing in subnet 48, will the revenue be used to start buying alpha? Yeah, so we've talked about this in the past. There's one path, which is when a user starts purchasing quantum compute capacity, they put in their credit card, pay US dollars to open quantum, and they spend that money on public compute. What Quantum Rings, who operates Open Quantum, is essentially doing is buying that compute time from the network. And that revenue, proceeds from that revenue go to buy back alpha. But that first requires us to get users to start putting in their credit card number. Second, it requires us to not only get them to put in their credit card number, but to spend that on the public compute. And so a lot of the people who are starting to spend money are just spending it on private compute. Because if you're going to be like paying for it, you may be doing that because you want privacy. As more users do start to buy the public compute, though, that money will trickle through here. But it's sort of like you can see that there's the funnel, right? And the funnel's non-trivial. By the way, Short Shot, your microphone might have just switched, or your mechanical keyboard got a lot louder because it was just a blinding noise. I don't know if your mic switched to your PC, but anyway, yeah. with that, we'll start to see that. I don't think you should set your expectations that that's going to be like huge volumes of dollars, but the plumbing is going to happen on that. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Good questions though, man. Holy smokes. The hardballs. Okay. What do we have next? Omar, sentiment.
Sentiment. Yeah. So, as has been the case pretty recently, generally pretty positive. We're seeing a lot of hype for the e-commerce on Enigma and sort of bringing in this outside talent. And so we are also quite excited for that. Let's see. There was some comments. We should all be posting about 63. Young project needs eyes on it. 100% agree. We did sort of come to the realization that, we are in a pretty crazy bear market at the moment. And so it does feel a lot of the time like sentiment or outreach falls on deaf ears. But the fact that you guys are posting and we're doing a lot to post and sort of keep that momentum up, even in a low like this, we're hoping is going to manifest into a pretty high when, things start to return to normal.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Sometimes it does feel like, I don't know, it sort of feels like timing is very like weird with everything we do, where like we're at like our peak value creation when like the ecosystem is in its trough, and we're out there promoting things to like an audience that just really doesn't have any extra capacity because there's blood in the streets and yeah, but this is I think that's a really good insight. But that doesn't mean take your foot off the gas. In fact, if anything, it probably means go harder. Like, because if we can sort of build more of a following and build more engagement while it's low and other people aren't sort of fighting for it, maybe we'll hold those people when we swing up. So yeah, we'll lean in.
There has been a little bit of skepticism around 48, I think, from an outside investor sort of looking into the chart. It has very much been flat for the past number of months. And so, a new investor is thinking, why would I put my towel into this if it's not going to go up? Which is fair. But again, Bob, you might have some thoughts on this, but we're hoping with all the new initiatives, eventually it is going to hit and it's going to grow, not linearly, but exponentially once people see the value in it.
Well, actually, so, I know that one shows up as orange, but I actually don't think that that's too negative. I think that the interesting thing, on 48 is that it really just doesn't get a lot of attention. And, I think a big part of that might possibly be that we launched stable code like at the beginning, and we haven't had to do like a lot of features because everything sort of like, it is the engine and everything builds on top of the engine. And so we really haven't had to change like the engine. Now, ironically, SureShot's about to do a giant PR because of the migration to the version 11 SDK. But in general, like the hope should be that we're not needing to change the core engine. But I do know that people look at metrics like, GitHub commits and stuff like that. So maybe that's something to incorporate into the strategy. The other thing that may be very positive for 48 would be if, I think people look at the official Discord for qBitTensor, and that's also very quiet because it's just humming along. Like you don't have people who are like trying to work on the next level of a challenge or engaging with you on, Discord. They're just operating a thing, producing the result that they're supposed to, making a little bit more money than they're spending, and it's just essentially silent. So maybe what we have to do is sort of like engage on Discord also, because I mean the market cap on 48 is so low, despite the fact that it's like the coolest subnet, in my opinion, on all of qBitTensor. It's like freaking quantum compute subnet with like a captive audience that's growing, like generating small and growing amounts of revenue.
Yeah, it's a lot of growth there. So
yeah, wild, totally wild. But yeah, but I love. He says he'd love to hold 48. He just wants to see the charts looking a little bit better. And actually, that's something that I think might not be too hard to do, given how low
you are the chart. No,
yeah, you are the chart. And like, and with a market cap as low as that is, like, it actually would not be hard to sort of like develop a strategy around that. That's cool. Okay, let's keep rolling.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. Not a plan. That's not even a plan. Maybe.
Yeah, I think besides the general hype, there was a lot of excitement. One around DEF CON, which you mentioned, and then also around the prize pools hitting 600,000, which is pretty spectacular. JB, it looks like, did the math and said that's like 34 challenges, which is a lot of challenges. So,
that's awesome. Or a couple really big ones.
or some really big ones. Break RSA 2048. Maybe you can have the whole thing.
You can have the whole thing. You give me code that can break RSA 2048, I'll give you the whole prize pool. I don't know.
Might need a few more instance hours on that to run. So
you do that on an RTX 6000 in 4 hours, and yeah, I'll match the prize pool.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing that actually does bring up an interesting question that's not on here, it was a private question that came in from actually our Blue Qubit partner, but it was about the RSA challenge. And he was actually asking, like, what is the end goal on RSA? Like, you're giving people this like limited compute environment. So like the biggest number that had ever been broken was like an 829-bit number, but used all of this compute time, was really long running, super distributed. So like, you're not trying to beat that, are you? And the answer is like, no. But we are trying to incrementally improve the methodology so that if somebody were to do that with like updated methodologies, they could potentially turn that 829 into a 830, 832, 835, right?
Figure out how to reserve all of shoots for a day at that point, and then
totally, yeah, that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, no, I think the IP for improving this stuff is actually pretty valuable, especially if it's something that's not just like a small incremental, tuning of something, right? So yeah, I'm super excited about it. Do we have more that we haven't hit on that, Omar?
I think that's more or less all of it.
Okay, cool. And we're at 1 hour and 1 minute and 58 seconds. So I think we should not go, don't test our luck. We'll call it pretty close to an hour. We'll keep trying to gain a little bit of efficiencies. I don't want to lose the fun banter, which honestly takes up a good chunk of time, but we'll try to keep these things as close to 1 hour at a time as possible. Okay, so with that, I suppose that's it. Thanks again, everybody. We appreciate you staying with us and spending the last hour with us. Sorry for the false start at the top of the hour, and we'll see you guys again very soon.
See you.